From the Denver Broncos Media Center, welcome to Broncos Country Tonight with Ryan Edwards and Benjamin Allbright.
Welcome to Broncos Country Tonight as the offseason continues to roll on. Rookies report this week. We're obviously very excited to get our first look at Nick Bonito, Greg Dulcich, among many. And we had an interesting conversation with Steve Atwater on Broncos Country Tonight, the radio show, about rookie minicamp and what some of these rookies are coming in and the expectations on, especially the top guys that are drafted. And if you're one of the back end of the roster guys or somebody that drafted late or undrafted, what you're trying to prove in this situation. I think it's an interesting spot to put a lot of these rookies. But Steve came in almost right off the top and said, hey, if you're one of the top guys, you're going to have eyes on you right away from the other guys in the locker room. Oh, this is the guy that the GM and coach believe in. And then simultaneously, if you're one of those back end of the roster guys, the expectation is you got to come in and show something.
Well, yeah. The main thing is prove you belong. Doesn't matter what part of the roster you're on, where you were picked, undrafted, whatever. Come in and prove you belong. Start there. And beyond that, there's going to be additional eyes on whatever the top pick was because that was the top pick, and that's going to have the name recognition. But beyond that, I think the main thing is come in, show competency, show willingness, and show that you haven't mastered everything yet, that you want to learn. And I think if you can do those things, that will go a long way to endearing yourself to your teammates. Now, with rookie minicamp, obviously you're not going to have all the vets here and not have those eyes on you right away, but you need to show to your peers going into camp when you do have those eyes on you. And so these are all the guys that are drafted with you. You're all in the same learning curve. You all got the playbook at the same time. So if you come in and you show you're behind on that while some of these other guys have picked it up quicker, man, that's on you.
No, certainly. And I mean, if you're one of the earlier drafted guys, you're likely on the roster at that point. But again, I think Steve's point, who was a first rounder, you come in and you don't want to embarrass yourself either. There's almost more expectations and pressure on you. Mm-hmm. And, I don't know about expectations as far as play on the field, but yeah, you'd like to show that you belong right away. I thought it was really funny, by the way. Steve was talking about how you don't want to come in and be dancing and looking too relaxed out there.
I would never fit in as a rookie.
No, you would not do very well at all in that. But I mean, it's an interesting thing because for me, and the more I'm around this game specifically, when you are having fun is usually when you're playing at your best, when you enjoy doing what you do versus being too tightly wound. That's when the mistakes happen. That's when you get inside your own head. So that's the same way for every single player, but that's generally speaking across the board. I notice the guys that are having fun, the guys that like being here, that's usually the more, I guess, the more value you get out of that player.
Yeah, I think so. I think that there is an inherent value to having fun at what you do. If you're not having fun at what you do, then it becomes tedious.
You don't show that, difficult. I guess? I don't know. I disagree
with I think I know what Steve meant. You don't want to be showing out and be the celebrity before you hit the field. But at the same time, I was always a keep everybody loose kind of guy. And I mean, you've known me long enough to know that. Like I'm cracking jokes and trying to have some fun and keep things light and make sure that we're always having fun. If we're always having fun, then that makes everything else that much easier and that much more fun. And you want to come into work. You want to come, there's an amount of sacrifice that you're going to have to give. You're willing to make those sacrifices because it's fun, it's a good time, and it just makes it easier on everybody. So that would be the area where I would disagree with Steve just a little bit. But overall, you don't want to come in and make a spectacle of yourself up front. You want to make the spectacle of yourself on the field, but you want to be able to celebrate that with all the guys.
I think the undrafted guys, the late round guys, they're in an interesting spot because clearly the coaching staff, the organization sees something in you. To even get an invitation to a training camp or to an off-season program is actually something important.
Yeah.
You think about the percentage of players that play at college that actually get to even be in a building for the NFL is so small as a percentage. So to be here means something. But there's a little bit of empathy there for the guys that are in the back end because you really want to go all out. You really want to go and do something remarkable to show that you belong. Get some interceptions if you're on the defensive side of the ball, or sacks. Again, you can't touch the quarterback, but within reason. You want to do something. But we're in a different kind of NFL. There's not very pads on in these exercises. So if you're one of those guys, how do you make that impression?
Well, you want to go out there and be memorable for the right reasons. I mean, he's always around the quarterback there. Too bad he couldn't sack him. That kind of stuff. You don't want to go out there and be memorable for getting worked.
Very true.
But to be fair, that has worked out in someone's favor before too. Malik Reed, my first exposure to Malik Reed was watching him get stiff-armed through the center of the earth by Drew Lock on a scramble. Now, granted, they didn't have pads, they couldn't tackle, but everybody was, like dogging him for that. And he put that on his shoulder and came into training camp like, I'm not going to be remembered for being that guy. And look what happened. We wound up leading the Broncos in sacks at one point. He's more of a rotational guy, but he still made the most of that opportunity. And Malik Reed is still around because of that motivation. So.
Definitely. And that's where I guess you can separate yourself a little bit. And I think you made up a great point there about knowing the playbook. Mm-hmm. And if nothing else, doing the right things, being available when the coaching staff is looking your way for whatever it is, the play on the field or in the classroom, because that's the part that we don't really get to see in the media. Oftentimes we get to see portions of practice. We get to see some of that stuff, but at the end, we don't know the classroom. We don't know how they're interacting with the rest of their group and how they're picking up on things. Mm-hmm. And so that's where the guys that are late drafted players, undrafted players, that's where I think they really get a chance to shine, especially in this new NFL when you don't get to have the pads on. You don't get to pop out there until training camp, really. That's when really things get to heat up. And I know they're going to have a mandatory mini camp, all those kinds of things. And the last thing I wanted to talk to you about here is just about integrating into the rest of the roster. And you and I discussed this on Friday on the show, but integrating into the roster, how a rookie should, I guess, best represent themselves when it's in that same group that you're going to be working in day out, and how you, I guess, make sure that you are giving enough credence to the fact that they're the vet and that they may know better, and simultaneously not be a bit of a pushover.
Yeah, I think it's a balance of displaying confidence and humility at the same time. It's about displaying a confidence in yourself and your ability that I belong here, while at the same time deferring to the vets in the sense that their judgment, having been around the business side of the game a lot longer, is going to be something you can learn from, and never being too good to learn something. Go out there and ask questions. The rest of it, the social dynamic component of it's just like integrating yourself anywhere. Anytime you go into a new job and you got to integrate yourself. I mean, that's whatever. But the part of it that is specific and intrinsic to football is never being too good for the moment and saying, if you're in a pass rush drill and Randy Gregory does a little, hey man, hey, what were you doing right there when you did the, let me take a look at me real quick. What am I doing wrong? Tell me what I'm doing wrong, and do those kinds of things. And some of the advice they give may work, some of it may not. But I think that the main thing is that in those situations and in those scenarios, you're at least showing, hey, I have a willingness to improve and get better and learn things and learn from you guys. I want to take everything that I can from this situation to improve myself to be the maximum best amount player I can possibly be. And at that point, the friends will make themselves. I'm
looking forward to seeing what the personality of this draft class is. I remember a couple of years ago with Bradley Chubb and Cortland Sutton in that class, they came in and they wanted to be locker room leaders. Like they came in with the anticipation of our group is going to be the leadership, future leadership of this team. I'm not saying that this group has to be that, but I'm intrigued to see how they fit in with the current leadership, which again has seen some changes over the last couple of years, including Von Miller leaving or being traded. And then now here where we're at, we have some of the younger guys that are stepping up into leadership roles, getting second, third contracts. Russell Wilson's here. It's a really unique situation now for the Broncos with this new class coming in and what they have established already as an organization as far as their culture. For Benjamin Allbright, I'm Ryan Edwards. Thanks for watching Broncos Country Tonight.